Alright, here I'm done here with the standard streamer highlight reel of the PTS patch notes. Tonight we're going to be going over the 4.1.0 patch notes for Wolfhunter DLC game pack. I may go ahead and review some of the other patch notes that they come up with after, right before the release, or maybe just the day of. But again, this is kind of more of just a look at a first look at what's coming up. Okay, so let's go take a look here and read the introduction. So we're looking at Welcome to Elder Scrolls Online 4.1.0, the Wolfhunter DLC game pack. Wolfhunter introduces 2 new 4-player dungeons, which allow you to venture into the hunting grounds of Hircine, in addition to the host of new collectibles and item sets. You'll also find a number of updates in base game, including the new Battlegrounds map and outfit styles, in addition to the keep recall stones for Citadel, update to respec systems, and more. We have made a number of balance changes to this update, and the main goals will be improved werewolf skill line, reduce the number of snares and defile effects, and increase the viability of the number of less popular item sets. Okay, so sounds good. All PC North American characters will be copied over, yada yada yada. You don't need to hear all that stuff. So that's the introduction to what we're looking at. So here's the basic recap on everything we're looking at here, and we're going to go down through it. I've already read through some of this here. I'm going to try to give you a highlight reel of what I find interesting. So if I don't go through everything else, we'll just go ahead onto the Elder Scrolls Online page, go to the PTS forums, and it should be right on the top there. So there are 2 new dungeons. Wolfhunter Keep. The Wolfhunter Keep is once a Clivian headquarters for the Order of Silverdawn, a group of peerless werewolf hunters in the Western Tamriel. It was destroyed by an ancient werewolf, Viscosa, who now takes her residence in the estate. At first, she merely turned the hunters against each other, each competing for the prize to join her pack. But now she draws in werewolves from distant lands to vie for her favor. Imprisoned in foul cells below the keep, Donta's Varian must seek your help to eradicate Viscosa's evil werewolf followers and remove her influence from the lands before it spreads. The other dungeon is March of Sacrifices. The March of Sacrifices is a section of hunting ground where mortals compete in teams for the boon from Hircine. Its deep ravine is shrouded in impassable mountains and populated by the most ferocious creatures in Hircine's realm. The Hunt Quarry is a massive and powerful Indrik imbued with the special powers from the Daedra Prince himself. If a mortal manages to fell the beast and retrieve its glowing red heart, it may petition Hircine for a boon. The hunt is open to any mortal, but is rarely undertaken by any who are not a follower of Hircine. Competition is bloody, but the foolish are incredibly desperate. Hircine's game is a tantalizing opportunity to win the favor of the prince. So, you have 2 things going on here. Number of rewards for each of the following: unique item sets, including 2 new Undaunted mass sets, only available in the dungeons. Unique achievement awards for completing the dungeon. Unique player skins, unique mementos, several titles, and unique player housing items. So we have a few new collectible furnishings that we're going to get into. Gothic Huntwear headwear. Try to either Hunter Keep or March Sacrifices dungeon to unlock the Gothic Hunter's headwear. The reward is its own Wolfhunter DLC game pack. Sable Man-Beast skin. Only those who completed the Wolfhunter Keep challenge achievement by completing the most difficult tasks in Wolfhunter Keep can proudly display the skin. Bestial personality. By completing the harshest challenge in the March of Sacrifice dungeon, and thus competing in the March of Sacrifices challenge achievement, you may slip into the bonds of civility with this personality. Werewolf Behemoth Sigil Memento. Unless you're in a werewolf with a sigil, earned by completing the Great Indrik Hunt achievement. The Great Indrik Hunt is completed by hunting 3 golden Indriks within the March of Sacrifices, each with earning their boons. Trophy is a Balrog, acquired from March of Sacrifice. Trophy is Viscosa the Ascendant, acquired from completing the Wolfhunter Keep. The Bust, Balrog, Bust Viscosa. Monsters for the Wolfhunter Keep and March of Sacrifice have a small chance to drop decorative bone pile furnishings. The items have it's important to use every part of the kill with what is what's left. Bosses for Moonhunter Keep and Narcissus Sacrifice have a chance to drop one of 4 rare Hercene-themed furnishing plans. The more difficult the dungeon, the better chances you have to acquire the furnishing plans. Good to know. Acquire the new furnishing plans. The Undaunted Questmaster can also be purchased for gold after completing the Wolfhunter achievement. All right, so let's see if we can take a look at those in the thing there. Now, the new item sets for Moonhunter Keep. We'll take a look at these actually in the game here in a bit, but Moonhunter Light, spell damage, spell critical. When your chemical poisons fire, increase your spell damage by 600 for 6 seconds. Okay, so poisons can only go off every 10 seconds. With this, you're basically getting a 6-second boost and a 4-second downtime. Is it good or bad? I think it's pretty good for this. It's a little bit RNG, yes, but for burst on PvP, I think this is going to be pretty good. Wish you could have 2 poisons to alternate, but you can only have 1 poison go off at a time. So you're kind of limited on that, but still, the burst is pretty good. Maybe also pair this with another burst set that you could work with. Actually, you know what would be kind of interesting with this? We'll take a look at another set down further here with the Monster Helm. But I'm kind of feeling like Veneer's Aptitude, which is a crafted set, which basically equals out your spell damage and your weapon damage. Combining it with this, you get the spell critical, which wouldn't really get help, but you have 2 spell damage here. A chemical poisons here for that 600, so you're going to get an extra boost on weapon damage and spell damage if you use that. And if you like using tri-stack lifts, you'll be getting both stamina and magicka on top of that. Would that be a meta there? I'm kind of interested to see. Because you might actually be able to run it like a kind of like hybrid build with this using that set. So you boost up your spell damage and weapon damage using this set here. It'd be kind of interesting to see. But that's the light armor there. Next, the Savage Werewolf medium. Max stamina, weapon damage, stamina recovery, and 5. When your light and heavy attacks rend flesh, cause your enemy bleed for 1,000 physical damage every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. Alright, this may or may not be considered good or bad. I'm not quite sure where you want to put it. So, we have currently Slowed, which is kind of hated. This is going to be doing less damage than Sloweds, but it's still another set that can be stacked on top of Sloweds. With stamina, weapon damage, and stamina recovery. A lot of people are downplaying this, saying it's a lot less damage. However, Sloweds can still be stacked with it. So what I'm getting at there is that, yeah, it's not doing as much damage, but you take this plus Sloweds plus another helmet set to, like Zane's, just stack on more damage. Or, hell, just put a more defensive thing on there like Troll King, and you're going to have some damage here that's going to be very hard to mitigate and get rid of, because bleed is one of those things that goes straight through your mitigations. Damage shields will protect against it, but again, putting this, Sloweds, something else on top of there, are we causing more people to give heartache because of Sloweds? Maybe, maybe not, but I'll have another rant on that a little bit later. Jailer's Tenacity, heavy. Healing taken, max health, and healing taken. When you lose 25% more of your health from a single attack, okay, so you didn't block, gain major vitality for 6 seconds, increasing your healing received by 30%. Don't know if this is good or bad. I don't see a tank using this because most tanks are going to be perma-blocking, and if they lose that much health that quickly, they're going to be finding themselves in a bit of trouble. PvP-wise, it might be very helpful, but it doesn't really have PvP stats to it. It has healing taken, and max health on a heavy set. I don't see this being that useful, but that's me. I mean, maybe other people will see something different here. I mean, major vitality is something very important for PvP, and this does not have a cooldown. So if you're getting hit for that much, yeah, this is going to give you a boost, a burst of health, but Is it really going to be helping enough? I don't think so, but that's me. Maybe you guys can prove me wrong. Now, Vicosa, Monster Mask. 1 is healing taken. 2 is when you taunt an enemy, frighten them with a deafening blow. Apply major main to them, something that's not really used at all in the game here, for 3 seconds, lowering their damage by 30%. This can occur every 15 seconds. So, like, major main is something that's not really applied to anything else, by anything else in the game. So 3 seconds for 30% seemed good, but it's every 15 seconds. And notice, it's when you taunt your enemy, you frighten them with a deafening howl. Well, most people are going to keep on their taunting, and I don't see that being useful at all. They're going to taunt when they feel like they need a taunt, and also keep major main on. That'd be about 15 seconds there, but only that first 3 seconds there is going to get you lower damage by 30%. Like, you'd want to save this major main for when you see a really powerful hit coming in, and you have to get some damage reduction on the boss, right? But you know, you've just made it for 3 seconds. It's 3 seconds out of 15. That's not a whole lot of uptime. In the meantime, like, there's nothing. The healing take is really not helping at all. So, tanking wise, PvP wise, I don't see this useful at all. Maybe you guys can tell me where this would actually be useful, but I don't see it being that great. Well, March of Sacrifice is next. Heinrich's Compassion. Max Recovery, Max Magicka, Max Recovery, Max Magicka on the 5-piece. And then, when you resurrect a player while in combat, you and that player gain major heroism for 15 seconds, granting you 3 ultimate for 1.5 seconds. Probably a pretty good PvP set. I kind of wonder, though, if this could be memed a little bit. So, do we have to actually wait the full resurrection time to get this major heroism? Or can what happen is I go in, I res somebody for like a second, and then immediately go out of it just to get major heroism and leave the guy down on the ground. Right? That might not be too bad. I don't think this is really that great, though. There's other sets that give heroism. And there's, well, it's magic based, so a lot of people wouldn't have that 150 passive inside the champion line either. So maybe it's useful, maybe it's not. I would like to see a DK using this more than anyone else, or maybe a Templar. Templars have the increased speed and res too, but don't see this being that useful. I mean, if one of your buddies is dead inside of a dungeon or PvE, well, you've already fucked up. For PvP, maybe useful if you just let somebody die and then you resurrect him for like a second and then just immediately let him go so you can get more ultimate. But there's other ways to get ultimate too. Blood Moon. Weapon damage, weapon critical, weapon critical. Templars with Cags. Even with Cags, I don't see this being useful. It's just not. I wouldn't see people like resurrecting people simply for the ultimate. Alright, so sorry, I guess getting distracted for chat here. But okay, Blood Moon. Weapon damage, weapon critical, weapon critical. When you deal critical damage with melee light attack, you stack Blood Scent for 8 seconds. When you get 5 stacks, you become frenzied for 5 seconds. Increase your light melee attacks by 50% and attack speed by 50%. This effect can occur every 18 seconds. This is going to have to be for a critical build, right? I could see this being used especially for like something like mechanical acuity or something else like that. But trying to get light attack, like assume that every light attack takes maybe a second to get off. So you're going to have to get 5 stacks within 8 seconds, which means if you don't crit like 4 of those times, you're kind of screwed there, right? And most people have their criticals sitting around 60 to 70%. It's possible, but I kind of have issues with this. You might have to actually wait for the full 8 seconds off to get it. That's going to be a little difficult. The effect looks amazing, though. Like, melee light attacks here are increased by 50%, plus your attack speed is increased by 50%. Like, that's terrific there. Only problem I have with it is you probably want to have Empower on top of it to give more damage to everything else simply because of the stack. Unless somebody's using Galwins, I don't see yourself giving yourself Empower to go with that. In addition to that, you also probably would be better off with something like Elegance, which is a light armor set, to give you more damage on your light attacks. So, looks good. Not sure it's great on paper. It looks good for this last part here, but even on paper, it doesn't look that good to me. Maybe somebody can tell me if I'm wrong there. Probably will tell me if I am wrong. But we'll see if this stuff gets changed, too. I mean, some of the stuff in the Somerset stuff didn't look too good when it first came out, and they made adjustments and tweaks as people used it on PTS. All right, Haven on Nurse, yeah, I can't pronounce that well. Max health, healing taken, max health. When you take damage while you're under 50%, already an issue. Summon a nursing spirit for 6 seconds. You or an ally can activate a synergy on Nurse to grant you a shield to protect you and the activator for 13,954 damage for 6 seconds. This can occur every 12 seconds. See, I'm not sure why you would go with this. The reason being, you have other sets that do very similar effects without having to do a synergy. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually think this is the way that ZOS should have been doing proc sets from the get-go. You should, if proc sets didn't simply go off, but instead went off and had a synergy that you had a proc on top of it, that would have been a lot more skillful to use, a lot more, like, tactical to use in general. But the issue I have here is the shield that it's giving doesn't seem to be something that I would use because I'm pretty sure we have other sets that activate when you're under 50% health for a little bit less. All right, so one Imperial City stuff or armor set that I remember here that I'm looking up on the other window here just so I don't have to open another one here is a heavy armor set. If I can find it here. Brands of Imperium. Okay, so when you take damage, you have a 10% chance to grant you and your allies within 8 meters, allies, multiple, not just 2, a damage shield that absorbs 12k damage for 6 seconds. This can occur every 15 seconds. You don't even have to wait you don't even have to wait till you're at 50% health to get that damage shield. And its stats in comparison are max health, and healing taking versus max health, healing taking, max health. So it's basically the same. It's Brands of Imperium. You can get that in White Gold Tower. It's a little bit less of a damage shield, granted. It's about 1,000, maybe just shy of 2,000 short of that. And it's a little bit longer on the cooldown, but still, it's every 10% chance after you get hit. That seems like it's a little bit better, to be honest. I mean, granted, this one, plus you have to do a synergy on this, so if you're below 50% health, because your healer hasn't done something, I don't know. Like, and it's only one of your people that activates the synergy. It's not everyone, right? So, again, I'm not sure why this is looking like it's such a thing, but... Now, the last set here. The last set here is the one that I'm actually kind of excited about because it's kind of the diamond in the rough. Balrog. Or Balrog. I'm just going to say Balrog. Weapon damage and spell damage. Okay. 2. When you use an ultimate ability, you gain weapon and spell damage for 10 seconds equal to twice the amount of the total ultimate consumed. Do folks... Okay, let's take a minute and think about this. Look at this, okay? You're going to get twice the amount of ultimate that you spend as weapon damage and spell damage. If you're a DK, This is probably going to be the monster helm that you're using with 7th Legion and some other set to also boost up your weapon damage. And just an Orc DK using this 7th Legion. I don't know, just slap on Hunting's Rage on top of that there, and your weapon damage is going to burst. Like, you're looking at, like, okay, let's say you're using a 250 ultimate there, probably like standard or something like that, shifting. And you're using that to get an extra 500 weapon damage on top of that. So you're using that for that, and then you get an extra 600 from your around 600, 500 for your 7th Legion. Another good 300 from your Hunting's Rage. Yeah, that's a burst set right there. That's going to be probably meta there. Another question I have on top of this, too. If this is when I activate it, if I'm doing a leap, right? Does that mean that while I'm doing the leap, my weapon damage is getting increased, and by the time I hit the ground, my ultimate's doing that much more damage? If I'm using shifting standard, even. Like, imagine that shifting standard, the initial shifting standard only does the base amount, right? But then because I've already activated it and got the weapon damage and spell damage boosted on that, right? I then drop it a second time. Now it should be taking the new stats to work on, right? That seems like it should be a pretty good burst set there. So I'm hoping this is going to be as good as it looks. The other sets here, I'm hoping they improve them a bit. Honestly, it just doesn't seem like enough or enough reason to get in there. Though, again, Savage Werewolf, I think is going to be another one that's going to be pissing people off in PvP a lot. Moonhunter, I can see this becoming a dark horse here with the right build. The rest of them, kind of mediocre. We'll see how they go. They may get improvements. All right, let's look at some of the other stuff going on here in base game, other items coming in. So, new battleground map. Istrissus? Istrissus. All right. New battleground is introduced. Istrissus. Built late in the Second Empire to control the chronic pirate problem on the Stride River, the Iris outpost has become a forgotten relic since the outbreak of Three Banners War, with the dwindling resources fought over by all sides. Artissus is a semi-asymmetrical map that also allows players to mount. Okay, so that's the battleground there. Keep recall stones. We've introduced a new method to Cyrodiil keeps. Keep recall stones now. Hi. Sorry, guys. Keep recalls stones are also new items for you. Sorry, guys, I just got distracted there. New items for you to use in your inventory or quick slot wheel to recall the keep or an outpost. These can be purchased for 20k EP or earned from rewards of the worthy. There are several restrictions to these. Several restrictions in place to use these items. You can only recall the structures that are under attack. You cannot recall the structure that is standing inside the region, keep, resource, or outpost, or town. You cannot recall you cannot use a recall stone while actively in combat. Recall stones can be used while in Caves of Cyrodiil, but not in Imperial City. Recall stones are a compound, so they can be banked but not traded with the players. And you cannot use a recall scroll while carrying an Elder Scroll. All right, let me talk on this real quick. The keep recall stones. I don't see this being used that much, and I don't see them being that useful if ZOS is not planning to make a change to keep respawns, which I wouldn't be opposed to. If they decide to go ahead and change keep respawns to make it so that you cannot spawn at a keep unless you're within range of it, much like a forward camp, this would be extremely powerful and extremely useful. I don't know if they're planning that or not. That's the question. This by itself, the current way that Cyrodiil's running, would not be useful. You're going to pay 20k AP for this versus just going up to a player or a pack of guards, getting yourself killed, and then going to a keep, which is basically blood farming. blood porting, not blood farming, blood porting. But yeah, I don't see them using this at all ever. It's not useful as it is right now. But if for the reasons that they're planning to put this in is because they're going to make that change, I'd be for it, because it's one of the things I think that makes, like, one of the issues I do have in Cyrodiil right now. Dying does not seem to have a factor. I mean, it is a force simulator in certain aspects, but dying doesn't have consequences as you might think. Like, you know, you die out in the wilderness or something like that, and then you just respawn at whatever keep you want to and get yourself right to the front lines. Like it's nothing. Having it so you can't blood port anymore, and you actually have to travel to something on your transit line, or you have to buy these keep recall stones to get to the keep because, you know, it's been cut off and you can no longer just directly transport there, would make it useful. And I would be interested to see it. But as Cyrodiil is right now, and since you can just go up to any player or any guards and get yourself killed and then just respawn someplace, I don't see it being that useful at this time. I would be interested, though, to see if they made other changes like that. Battleground outfit styles. Now, I think this one is kind of exciting for people that do Battlegrounds. So they've added new outfit styles to Battlegrounds here. We'll look at them here in a bit in a separate video for you folks on YouTube. But the chance for the outfit styles are now how well you perform in your team. Victors have a much higher chance to obtain outfit styles than second place, and second place finishers have a much higher chance than third place finishers. However, teams coming in dead last have a small chance to get it. So you always have a chance to get it. Medals you obtain do not affect your chances at all. So if you suck at if you suck at because you're doing support all the time, but you still get in the first place on your team, or sorry, if your team still gets in first place, you're still going to have a high chance to get stuff. Placing on the leaderboards of Battlegrounds also has a very good chance to get it. So either get on the Battlegrounds or start winning at Battlegrounds, and you can get the new outfits. We'll take a look at that in a little bit here. New PvP collectible. The new Arena Gladiator costume is now available for those who want to conquer their foes mercilessly. So they get 50 Arena Gladiator proofs found in Cyrodiil Conquests, and purchase an Arena Gladiator executions from the War Researcher for 10k AP. Using Electrocution, it will consume 50 proofs and create a room box for the Arena Gladiator costume. Now, to collect 50 of these, you can only get 50 of those quests, or sorry, you can only get one of those quests per character per day. Assuming that you had 10 characters, that means in about 5 days, assuming that you did your quests, you could possibly get this. But again, that's a lot to do there. Like capturing like 9 resources, you have to be running around the group there and making sure that the population like popping on that. But anyways, respec and system updates. We've updated the ability to respec, so I've activated a respec mode. No longer clears all your points, but instead allows you to add and remove points from your abilities. This will still have the option to remove all points if you wish to fresh restart, though. So we retain the morph only option for the reduced price, and you can still subtract, and you can add or subtract from ability morphs. Anyone who loses a skill tree, like Vampire Werewolf, will now have their skill points associated tree refunded. This is also applying retroactively. So if you've lost your Werewolf or Vampire and didn't take your skill points out, now you actually have a way to get that done. Anyone who's previously removed their skill trees will have their additional skill points return upon login. All these changes will apply a redata creation structure for skill respecification scrolls from the Crown Store. So yes, this is a very good change here. It also makes it less of a headache trying to respec every patch here with something that's changed or something that's like, you know, you have one ability you want to switch over, but like you have all these other stuff in there. So if you got rid of the morphs, now you have to shift all your points over. It's a pain in the ass. This is going to hopefully be a lot better. Welcanar motif. So the Welcanar motif is now available for Crowler's trials, and this is kind of a cool way to get it too. The motif is probably worn by Griffin riding Welcanar themselves, and now you can earn it from to wear this armor too, if you can defeat Jamaja. So you can earn these fragments from Jamaja, more earned by defeating her in harder difficulties, which is good, and she will not drop fragments unless fought in veteran mode or normal mode with all her allies. So it's basically a challenge mode on this. So you can see here, your boss setup here. If you do it on normal, you have to do a 3+ run. to get at least one little scrap. If you're doing it on veteran, you can get 2 if you're on lone, 1 for 4, or 4 for 1 boss, 6 for 2 bosses, and 10 for 3 bosses. This is basically hard mode here. But hey, folks are doing this already and farming it, so I'm hoping folks are already trying to get themselves up onto 1 and 2 bosses and eventually working on 3 bosses so they can start farming some of these for themselves. And always, doing it on veteran is a lot harder, but a lot more rewarding now too. So I'm happy to see this as well. You can earn Welkanar bindings once a week by completing the quest Woes of Welkanar. Okay, good for that. By activating the Welkanar bindings, which consumes up 10 of those motif fragments, you can create a single random Welkanar motif chapter, or very rarely a full book. So basically, you can farm up, and it's no longer like you're getting a random motif from the boss. Instead, you get these scraps here, okay, and then once a week, you can do this quest here to combine it and get a full book or a random recipe or something else like that. So it's kind of good and bad. It still has some RNG to it for some of you folks, but it has less of a, how would I put it? Like, you have a guaranteed chance here to get your motif, and you don't have just simply an easy mode farm to go for it. Well, the easy mode farm for it is like doing this boss 3 times versus doing it 10 times, but still, it's a lot less of a how can I put it? It's a lot less. It has more meaning to do it on veteran at the harder levels, which is something I think a lot of people doing trials wanted to see for a while now. Instead of just making it so it's like, oh, you already have your perfected set, so there's no reason to run this anymore. No, now it gives people reasons to run this on veteran hard mode, because you're going to get more scraps, and that scraps can turn into a motif page. And even if you have that motif page, you can still sell it off. It gives you more money to it as well. But it's not simply giving you a prize, which everyone else can get too. Welkanar style gold griffin plumes can be earned from the same manner by defeating Majamaja. You'll earn more of these in harder difficulties, as well as motif fragments, and you will not earn any if you defeat her on normal without her allies. So again, you want the plumes, you got to do the veteran or with the 3 bosses. New homes. There are 2 new homes during this test PTS cycle. The Hunter's Glade, an underground entrance which leads to the portal of an expansive forested glade in Hersine's Oblivion realm of the Hunted Grounds. Those blessed with lycanthropy can maintain rural form indefinitely in this otherworldly wilderness. Grand Sijic Villa. While the Archroom was removed from Tamriel, few neighboring isles went with it, including this site in the Grand Sijic Villa, a monumental estate with a magnificent view of the southern coast of the main island. Updates and bug categories. We've added new updated categories recently through bug. Categories are now better defined, subcategories encompassing, so basically easier ways to describe things. Champion point increase, again, another 30 points here. Total is now 780 for champion points. That means an easier time for folks to get their champion points if they're really low. Also means that us high B folks are going to have to keep on grinding and getting ourselves up into the max. Templates, you guys don't want to hear about that. It just explains what we're using here on PTS. Alliance War, capture keys and scroll bonuses do not currently apply properly. Character itemizations, yada yada yada. This is just known issues. Hopefully they're going to fix this eventually here. Copy character itemization, yada yada yada. UI, general. Fixed an issue where the quest icons could display incorrectly on cargo elevators. Okay. Permanent fixes. Added missing ceiling texture. Yep. Blood fiends that could previously be targeted to Blade of Woe no longer are subject to his powers. Blade of Woe is no longer available against all blood fiends. Instead, it's only sometimes working and sometimes not. Improvements fixes. Dragon bones. Fixed issues where unique furnishings available drops from enemies in Fangler and Scalar were significantly more than intended. So again, If you want to get those things in, you better farm it today, because it's going to go away. Fixing an issue where defeating Zane in Scale Collar Veteran Hard Mode would sometimes result in 2 Scale Collar motif chapters dropping. Now, you'll always receive a single motif chapter while defeating Zane on Veteran Hard Mode. Get to farming, folks. Get to farming. Dungeons, Imperial City Prison. Brace for Impact now displays properly the appropriate icon during the encounter with the Warden Dusk. Double the drop rate for Stonefire Scamp pets and Soul Shriver and room boxes available in the that place with Maul Ball. So if you wanted to get that pet or the skin, just wait a little bit. You'll see more of them coming up. Orsadium, fixed an issue where burning oil was clipping through the ground and the quest Blood for the High King's Hands. Somerset. Improve the collision on various assets. You no longer appear to be floating or sinking through the floor. Updates to some of the assets that have made assets to better match what they represent. Added a missing texture to Wind Stomp Barrel. Monsters. Monsters all use Minor Wound more. Fix your Yargarth Larva. When attack to explode and find a mist. Fix salamanders would levitate awkwardly. Fix salamanders wouldn't stop slithering. World bosses. Gravited. No longer easier to hit and returning his hideaway before he leaves. Heliata and Nagarva. Fixing the issue where the Griffin world boss would sometimes fail to spawn. Nagarva's lands is now more graceful. Keel Splitter. Oh yeah, this was annoying. Increase the range that a Keel Splitter can bite. Water Spout no longer procs and chill status. Adjusted the Water Spout slam, swipe, hit targets to make them less punitive for melee players. Improve the attack message in your favor. Increase the damage to the Water Spout. Players are no longer as aggressively removed from Keel Splitter's credit list. Queen of the Rift, another annoying one. Repaired the issue where Queen of the Rift could attack invisibly before she emerged. Repair the issue where the Queen of the Rift brood would not despawn when she reset. Increase the player area receive credit for Queen of the Rift, and fix an issue with Queen of the Rift which sometimes fail to spawn. All right. Alchemy and crafting economy. Alchemy's keen eye will now eliminate giant clams seen on the seashore. Now this one here is good because clams were hard as hell to see, especially like white clam on white sand. Yeah, no one was seeing that. So this is hopefully going to reduce the price of that clam gall and that mother of pearl stuff. Clams in Somerset will now always drop like chemical ingredients. Pearl furnishings items will now only come from clams that have pearls inside. Interesting. This is going to be good. This actually makes it so I actually probably want to get the... so I can get the keen eye for this so I can actually see those chemical ingredients. A good improvement there. Druid crafting. Fix an issue where druid crafting certification quests will not accept any ring rather than only accept a ring you crafted. Okay. Fix an issue where you're causing some rich seams in druid crafting. Crowger 3 to disappear when you got close to the resource nodes. Introduction to crafting. Turn-in writs. Updated the text of druid master trait crafting. Heavy sacks now have a chance to drop druid crafting dust instead of druid crafting ounces. Ooh, that's really nice. Dramatic improvement for the value of artifact quality jewelry master level crits, and significantly increase the value of legendary quality jewelry crafting master writs in terms of the writ vouchers payouts. That's going to still be expensive. I don't know. The writs I really don't like for jewelry crafting, but that's me. All jewelry crafting writs have received in the future will receive these increased voucher values. This change will not impact the jewelry crafting master writs already present in game. Ugh. General made some adjustments to wet gunny sacks, waterlogged sigil satchels, and Permeridian bottles. So it's clear to which containers may be hiding valuable crafting ingredients inside. So gunny sets are now green, Permeridian bottles are blue to match waterlogged sigil satchels. Waterlogged sigil satchels and gunny sacks now indicate it sounds like there's something inside. Permeridian bottles and gunny sacks now confirm you want to delete them. Now have no sell price and cannot be sold to merchants. Update the way gunny sacks can indicate they don't contain gold coins. Okay. Fixing an issue with particular chairs in Shimmerine Waterworks could not be sitted. You will now always obtain coup de la coeur from completing daily quests in Sapriarchs of Eleanor. The waterlogged note item is now marked with a scroll rather than trash. Fixed an issue with Trader's Vault had an excessive number of lootable wardrobes. Damn. I was actually going to recommend, folks, if you're going to be looking for any type of motifs or like furniture plans and you're just starting out, that Trader's Vault is a great location to look for because there's just like rows of wardrobes in one area with very low spawns. And you can just go on one character, loot them all, go on another character, loot them all. With this patch here, not bug, this is patch. This is going to actually ruin that. So if you want to get if you want to get some grinding out and some farming out with this, do it now. It's going to go away. Achievements. Corrected spelling and errors. Yeah. You'll find patches, not you do not find patches, you find paths. I found patches here. Books. Fallen books have now been added to resource selections. Fishing. There are now more pools of fishable foul waters in Somerset. Per the report released by Kinlady Avesi, this is attributed to the high litter of runoff due to the influx of outsiders. So basically, all the outsiders right now are just pissing in the water, and there's more foul water to deal with. Or is those dirty Argonians just rolling around in the water? I don't know. Housing, furnishing. Now, furnishings are all sold by on one till the Somerset home goods furniture. Shrubs, dormant sunbird, shrub, blooming sunbird, ginkgo tree, ancient ginkgo tree, sunbraz, ivy cluster. Ooh, ivy cluster. That might actually be interesting. Fix the number of minor issues with the name and descriptions of several Somerset furnishings. Reduce the cost of Coeur de la Coeur to make Somerset High Elf furnishings and fine and superior from 2 to 1. Artifact and legendary items still require 2. Quest and zones, multiple typos, more citizens Somerset can now be pickpocketed. Those pockets contain items appropriate to the social standing. More citizens in Somerset will now react appropriately when said pickpocketing and trespassing. Yet more citizens have become careless and now can be killed by the Blade of Woe. Corunathan's house is now a trespass location. Alright. Public Dungeons and Delves. Corostron. Your character no longer revive in the water and perishing to slaughterfish. Torm Howard card. Remove your NPC. Removed an NPC you could not interact with. Okay. Quests. I'm going to skip over the quest stuff here. A lot of stuff is fixed up here, though. UI for maps. Selection area for Arterium map will now better match the location in the cosmetic map. Okay. Combat and abilities. So a lot of stuff has changed with the combat. We had a full respec based on feedback from both players and their representatives there that they chose here. So some of the stuff may or may not be good for some of us, may or not be bad. But first thing is to say that they improved Werewolf quite a bit with this. And they adjusted other sets and other abilities as well. Kind of agree with it, kind of don't agree with some of it. I'll get into that a little bit later in a different video. But let's take a look at the notes as they are now. So, first, improving werewolf gameplay and quality of life. Those sneaky werewolves. Several abilities have been significantly adjusted. Leveling and skill line is considerably easier, and werewolves now are capable of doing more core combat actions such as resurrecting or using synergies. Reduce the number of durations of snares and defile effects. Abilities as item sets that apply snares and debuffs on enemies have been the durations significantly reduced. Since most of the changes were made to damage over time abilities, we have recast those abilities to keep the players permanent snared, which sacrifices some of the damage. Most of the effect of the snare abilities were untouched, though, since the counterplay is just to move out of the area effect. Sorry, most area effect snare abilities were untouched. Increasing the viability of older item sets. A few item sets have received some dramatic redesigns, while others are simply buffed to improve their usage. So, in general, increase movement speed for all monsters summoned for your allies and item sets by 25%. Monsters have 50% total movement speed. This keeping pace with using a sprint or having major evasion, but not movement speeds bonuses that can allow you to outrun them. Visual effects now appear over your character's head when using detection pots, Mage Light, Expert Hunter to notify players your abilities to see your sneaking or invisible enemies. I agree with this. This is something that probably should have been given a while ago, because a Nightblade doesn't have much feedback why their cloak isn't working, and I've seen a lot of people complain not realizing that certain abilities can just pull them out. And this is acceptable counterplay. Now, I still think they need to make it so that there's more abilities and maybe even an armor set that can help find players easier. Right now, Sentry set is probably the only one that's out there, and it's not really a good set. And it doesn't do a whole lot comparatively, and there's no competitive reason to wear it, basically. I'd hope that there's something else that they're going to come up with soon to just give better counterplay to detecting, but we'll see. Decreasing the range of two-handed, dual-wield, and one-handed shield unarmed, and werewolf with heavy attacks from 7 meters from 10 meters. So, the range for melee heavy attacks now matches the melee cast time and channel abilities such as Uppercut and Flurry. So, this makes sense. I'm kind of interested to see if this is going to change some of the metas that happen right now. If you didn't know already, like if I cast a two-handed ability and do a gap closure, I can actually get the heavy attack off and the gap closure off on whichever enemy I'm looking at, if I'm in the right range. So I think this 10 meter change here should make it so that that's a little bit harder to pull off for certain players that have been using that as a meme for quite a while. In addition, I agree with this as well, because it was kind of ridiculous the range that you had with some of your abilities. Fix an issue where you can casting certain self-target abilities such as spiked armor, dark exchange, or imbue weapon would remove you from sneak. Okay, that works. Dragonite. My main class. Ardent Flame, World of Ruin. The ability now increases your damage over time for Fury Breath, and its morphs. Good to see. Warmth. The ability now only snares targets when you deal direct damage with Ardent Flame abilities. Was with any type of damage. Yep. Decrease the duration of the snare by 3 seconds. For all ranks. Previously 2 and 4 seconds. So does this mean that there's only going to be one rank for this? Or does this mean that both ranks are just now 3 seconds? Kind of weird, right? Like, why would I put another point in this if it's 3 seconds and then 3 seconds? Draconic Power, Reflective Scale, Reflective Plate, Morph. This ability now grants 2 seconds of immunity to snare and immobilization effects. Should make it more. This should make it more viable for a lot of PvPers out there who keep on getting themselves snared. Given the fact that DKs don't have a really good run factor, usually you have to have gap closures to catch in to players. This should hopefully make it easier for us to get into catch up to a player and make sure we don't get snared or rooted or anything else like that. Nightblade, my counter. So, currently, Assassination, Deathstroke, Incapacitating Strike, Morph. This ability now only stuns enemies if your current health percentage is lower than the target's. Alright? Grim Focus, Merciless Resolve, Morph. Removes a snare from your ability. Remove the snare from this ability. Okay. Shadow. Aspect of Terror. Decrease the duration of the snare from 2 seconds from 4 seconds. Okay. Shadow Cloak. Dark Cloak. Morph. Fix an issue where the casting this ability will remove you from sneak. Alright. Siphoning. Cripple. Decrease the duration from the snare of decrease the duration of the snare in the major expedition buff from this ability and its morphs from 4 seconds from 8 seconds. Still, one of the longest ones you have there. So, yeah, they really hit Nightblade hard. They didn't improve that much to him. So, sorry, Nightblades. Sorcerer. Dark Magic. Rune Prison. Rune Cage. Decrease the damage from this ability by 20%. Yeah, they're hurting. Storm Carling. Mage's Fury. Fix an issue where the dodging of this ability and its morphs would still apply Execute Explosion debuff on you. Overload. Fix an issue where the heavy attack of this ability and its morphs could not proc weapon enchantments or poisons. Okay, so that's good. That they kind of took this out. The Mage's Fury out was annoying at this point here. Reducing this by 20%. I don't know if that's going to have a huge impact, given the burst abilities aren't really with Rune Cage, but it still kind of hurts them a little bit. Templar, Darn's Wrath. Radiant Destruction. Increase the maximum bonus execute damage dealt by this ability in its morphs to 400% from 330%. That's still going to be nasty. Radiant Destruction did get what has always been kind of an up and down struggle. Right now, I think it was actually a good spot, but getting 70% more damage is definitely going to hurt. At least the damage isn't coming off on the first tick as much. Well, the first tick is delayed at least, so you still have time to get in there and bash him out of it. But with all the other changes they made to channel abilities, don't know if this is going to be good or bad. Dark Flare. Decrease the duration of Major Defile from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. Let's talk Major Defile a little bit after this here. But again, Major Defile is one of those ones where you have about 3 abilities out there, where 2 of them are long casting abilities, where Major Defile comes into play. Dark Flare and what's the other one? Lethal Arrow? Lethal Arrow from the bow line are 2 of the abilities that you have to give Major Defile on an enemy. Reducing it to 4 seconds, half the time there, when it takes about like a 2-second cast time, you're not going to have a whole lot of time putting in stuff in the middle of that, between there, to keep a person locked down from getting heals. And if they want us to use it tactically, if they want us to use Major Defile tactically, I'm at a loss here because, again, you have the best healer in the game, Templar, can easily purge or purify it, just remove it, right? And now you have to cast it again for 4 seconds. In that 2.5 seconds it takes to channel it, they can already get several heals off to heal themselves up high enough that your Major Defile doesn't mean jack shit. Right? You're going to have to basically be a mind reader to be like, okay, I got to get Major Defile on this guy because he's going to start healing up in a minute. Again, the changes to Major Defile, I don't necessarily agree with, but we can get into a little bit more of that. Remove the cast time for this ability. Solar Barrage. Remove the cast time for this ability and decrease the damage done by 40%. Alright. Sunfire. Decrease the duration of the snare in this ability by 3 seconds, from 5 to 9 seconds. Alright. Healing Ritual. Ritual Rebirth. Morph. Fix the issue where you could dodge a secondary heal from this ability. Kind of stupid, but okay. Rune Focus. The ability in this morph will now apply Major Ward, Major Resolve, and the morph affects you directly for 15 seconds. That's a buff. Standing within the area effect now increases Major Ward and Major Resolve effects by 50%. What? I had not read that. That's for anyone that's standing in it. So you get Major Ward and Major Resolve in, and guess what? You get another buff by just standing in it. Okay. Increase the cost for the ability of restoring focus by 2,700 from 1890. Channel focus. Increase the cost of the ability from 1891 from 1080. New redesigned rune focus more closely matches the fast action combat while still preserving the original field for area protection. Oh no! I don't. I in the chat that's in Twitch right now while I'm reading this. That doesn't mean Templar tanks. No, that means any tank. Remember, look at this. Staying in the area effect now increases major and minor major resolve by 50%. It doesn't say just to the caster. It means anyone. That means, again, another hard reason to be using Templar, Magicka Templar especially, in your group. Like, healer just comes up, puts that on the ground, and then steps back. You think it only applies to the caster? We'll test that in PTS and see. But if this is for anyone, again, it's another hard reason to use Templar as a healer. I don't. Not to say that abilities like that aren't neat and effective, but think the 50% is talking to the caster from previous point. Well, we'll take a look. I wouldn't see the reason to do this just for the caster though, because remember, this is only giving it to one person. This here, because previously Rune Focus was to give it to anyone in the group. Now this might actually affect only people that have major ward and resolve. I'll take a look at that. We'll take a look on PTS. But if this is affecting anyone, remember, we've been trying to make it so that healers outside of just Templars have reasons to do stuff. If this is just now applied to everyone in the group that has major or minor resolve, or sorry, major ward or major resolve, I just can't see you not running a Templar as a healer at this point. You're just getting extra. You're getting more stacked on top of having a Magicka Templar as your healer than anything else. Warden, okay. Animal companions, Cliff Racer, Screaming Cliff Racer, morph. Fix an issue where its casting and abilities not oriented you to the character you're facing any target. Okay. Lotus Flower. Fix an issue where the ability is morphed to not work on light and heavy attacks for major mending wounds. Alright. Witcher's Embrace. Arctic Wind. Increase the initial heal from the ability by 50% and your max health from 12%. Okay. So just some improvements to Warden, improvements to Templar. Some improvements, some reductions to Dragon Knights, reductions to Nightblade and Sorcerer. Now this is based, again, partly on the feedback given from the representatives here, which means I guess the people that were Nightblades and Sorcerers weren't doing a good enough job telling people that they needed buffs on certain things. So go blame those guys. Okay, let's go into the weapon stuff here, which everyone uses. Power Bash, Reverberating Bash. Decrease the major defile buff from 4 seconds to 10 seconds. Okay, this one I can agree with, but let's talk on the defile buffs, debuff real quick here. I'm going to have a separate video regarding PvP in a little bit here, but the major defile buffs here, I think that what should have happened with a lot of the major defile stuff here is they should have made it either. They should definitely reduce the time frame on the major defile stuff because that was getting to be a meme and kind of hard as well. But the problem I have is 2 of the abilities were a long cast time. Power Bash getting reduced, okay, that's fair because it's a quick passing ability and you can see the person trying to get themselves rated for a heal. The Reverberating Bash there can easily be woven in back and forth and still cost stamina and has a reduced damage count to it. Lethal Arrow and Dark Flame there. I think it's Dark Flame, isn't it? Apologize to all you Templars out there. Dark Flare. Dark Flame. No. I was off by one letter. Okay, so getting reduced by 4 seconds when it's already a long cast time for that does not make sense, because again, it's a long cast time that you have to basically predict that somebody's going to be putting it on there, and the major caster, the person that you want to get that on top of, is the Templar, and the Templar is going to be able to purge that thing off himself pretty goddamn easy. I think what really should have happened here is, if you're going to take away, if they're going to take away the major defile, reduce the major defile to such a low amount, they needed to make it so that there was a long duration for a minor defile, and change these long cast times here to be like minor defile for 6 seconds. Major defile now has a shorter duration on a quick attack, simply so you can work it back and forth there. So anything that's a long duration, minor defile, especially for anything that takes a long time to cast, because again, that long time to cast, you can be bashed out of it, you can easily have it dodged, you can see it coming, so you should have enough counterplay to get yourself out of the defiles process. In addition to that, you're not going to be able to keep that stuff on a healer for a long period of time. The Reverberating Bash, which would be a much faster ability and a much more like snap reaction, you can probably put this down to 2 or 3 seconds and just make it so that, oh, this person's starting to get down low on health here, I need to start applying major defile on this guy to keep him from getting a major heal on himself before I can execute. That's where I think they really needed to go here. But instead, they nerf major defile. They don't have any source for minor defile except for poisons, which are totally RNG and not really skill-based at all. Which, again, it's like, we need to lock down these healers somehow, because when you have a game where offensive stats equal into your healing stats, it really messes with things here, because everyone's going to be stacking those stealing stats as well as your damage stats to get quick kills and also get major heals. So don't really agree with the major defile stuff. Again, change some of it up here in certain areas, but not for the long casting stuff. The long casting stuff, they should just reduce the defile. Maybe make it so that you can have a minor defile and then you can stack a major defile on there if you're good enough and if they don't purge enough. That's my thoughts, though. Dual wield, lacerate. Fix an issue with his ability and morphs can sometimes heal you based on the damage dealt from other abilities at the same time. Twin slash, rending slash's morph. Decrease the duration from the snare from 4 seconds to 9 seconds. To 4 seconds from 9 seconds. Makes sense given everything else. Bow, arrow spray. Decrease the duration of the snare from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. Makes sense. Scattershot. Fix the issue where the roll dodging immediately after casting his ability would prevent the enemy from gaining crowd control immunity after you knocked them back. So yeah, that's a bug that was happening there. Now snipe, lethal arrow morph. Decrease the major defile applied from this from 4 seconds from 10 seconds. Again, this thing takes forever to cast, and you're giving it 4 seconds here. Yeah, that's, you're not gonna. We'll talk a little bit more on that later. World Vampire. Okay, Cure Vampirism is now refunded all skill points from that you invest in that skill line. Yay! Drain Essence. Fix an issue where this ability is more so fail to cast if you use it against a crowd control immune enemy while blocking. Yep. Werewolf. Okay, developer comments. Werewolf changes. These are a significant number of changes to Werewolf in this update. Some of these changes were made for the improvement of quality of life, while with leveling and maintaining the form, while others were made for new gameplay possibilities. First, you'll be leveling and maintaining your werewolf is now considerably easier. Devour passive is now granted you automatically at the very start, so you can sustain better form at lower levels before you have unlocked all the skills. We've significantly reduced the experience requirements for more for all skills. Second, you'll be able to do more core combat actions as a werewolf, such as resurrecting your allies and synergies. Werewolf have a much easier time engaging group content now that they have helped their friends and more efficiently. This coupled with some changes such as Blood Rage passive triggering on damage dealt instead of damage taken means that you can now be more viable in PvE activities such as dungeons. Finally, the morphs and his abilities were changed to improve the cohesiveness of the werewolf kit. Some combos and effects that weren't as effective have been removed, while others have been tweaked to support fast and ferocious playstyle in werewolves. As an example, we removed the stuns from pouncing and piercing howl, but dramatically improved roar and made it an instacast. Fears more targets and a more competitive morph effects. Okay. So werewolf transformation. You can now resurrect players while transformed. You can now use synergies while transformed. You can now use siege weapons while transformed. I'd be interested to see that. A werewolf on a siege weapon. Werewolf timer will no longer tick down while you're receiving, while you are reviving in place while transformed. Update to the tooltips and the abilities and is more so better describe all the additional effects of the transforming. The abilities of the morph no longer increase the movement speed of your spell and physical resistance on the baseline. These bonuses have been moved to the passive line and skill line. I'm kind of wondering, your werewolf timer no longer tick down while you're reviving in place while transformed. Does that mean that it won't tick down on you if you're transformed, or while you're reviving somebody else? If you're reviving somebody else, what you could do is you could technically start reviving somebody, stop, revive somebody, stop, revive somebody, stop, revive somebody, stop, and just keep on going over and over again to keep your werewolf up. Be kind of interesting, but while you're reviving from the dead. While you're in ghost mode. Okay. Because otherwise, the other way would sound way too broken to me. These bonuses are moved to the passive abilities to help you reinforce your feeling of progression you get from werewolf skill line. It will also now allows you for extra space while to add more information to the werewolf transition tooltip about the housing and other bonuses while transforming, such as your max stamina being increased in your health heavy attacks, dealing splash damage. Okay. Pack leader morph. Direwolves now scale with the bonus of damage done. Direwolves will now alternate between two direct damage attacks, previously 4, and no longer non-damaging snare ability. Fixing an issue where direwolves would throttle their attacks against the same target, they will now attack much more rapidly. Fixing an issue where direwolves will not respawn when you or wherever you were spawned. Okay. Blood Rage. This ability now increases the timer for werewolf transformation while dealing damage, rather than when you take damage. Adds 2 to 4 seconds to your timer for a 5-second cooldown. Devour. This is now the first passive in your skill line, and is free, and is a free passive that you do not require to spend a skill point. Points already spent will now be refunded. Devour Corpse now is a 4-second channel instead of a 4-second cast time. Every time you spend a devouring corpse in werewolf, restore your increases your werewolf timer and destroys health. Each corpse can be devoured for up to 4 seconds. What if multiple people can devour a corpse too? That's probably a thing, right? Update the visual effects for enemy corpses that can be devoured. Improve the target and reliability of devouring corpses. Herstein's Bounty. The ability in its morphs now heal based on the max health. Herstein's Bounty and Herstein's Rage heal you for 45% of your max health, while Herstein's Fortitude heal for 60% of your max health. Herstein's Rage morph. The morph now grades Major Brutality for 20 seconds. Infectious Claws. Update the visual effects and abilities. Okay. Piercing Howl. The abilities morphs no longer stun targets. Decrease the cost for the ability and its morphs from 3,500 from 4,000. Increase the visual effects for the ability and its morphs. Howl of Despair. The synergy now grants an ally Empower for all light attacks for 5 seconds. Previously, it granted 10% of light attacks and heavy attacks for 15 seconds. Okay, this is interesting because it's one of the few abilities that I know out there that actually gives Empower. Very few other abilities I can think of right now give Empower to other players. Pounce. Wait. Oh, let me take a look on here. The synergy now grants Empower to light attacks. Okay, yeah, so it's just the person that activates the synergy, I believe. Which kind of sucks. I kind of wish it would be for everyone that's in the area. But I guess it makes sense that it only gives it to one. Pounce. This ability has Morse no longer stun the targets that were set off balance. Pursuit. This ability now increases the movement speed by 15 to 30%. Note, the bonus was moved from the baseline effect of the werewolf transformation to the passive. Roar. The ability is morphed now instacast, previously 1 second. The ability is morphed now fear 6 targets, previously 3. The ability of rousing roar morph no longer sets an enemy off balance. Ferocious roar. The morph now sets feared targets off balance. This morph, now renamed to Deafening Roar, now applies Major Fracture for 10 seconds to feared targets. So the question I have for this is, the morph now sets feared targets to off balance. The morph now applies Major Fracture to feared targets. If you have something like a boss, does this apply? Because bosses can't be feared. So if they're not feared, do they not get off balance and they can't get Major Fracture from this? Savage Strength. The ability is... this ability now also increases your spell and physical resistance by 5,000 to 10,000. Note, this bonus was moved to the baseline effect of Werewolf Transformation as passive. All werewolf abilities will now require less experience. The experience requirements for the level of werewolf abilities will now match the weapon skill lines. Werewolf Transformation Ultimate experience requirement for the class Ultimates. The Major Fracture doesn't require fear. Does that mean that the off balance doesn't require fear either? Because remember, look, the wording here is a little bit off then, because it says now applies Major Fracture for 10 seconds to feared targets. So it might be just the wording is a little bit off on that, but that's why I was wondering that. All right, Curing Lycanthropy now refund skill points. Fix an issue where casting an ability while middle of werewolf heavy attack would cancel out the heavy attack instead of queuing up the ability to cast a heavy attack completed. Okay. Guild, Fighters Guild. It'd be incredibly stupid if so. That's why I'm asking, Innova, because sometimes things get changed and they don't quite think it out through. They think that, okay, if we're just fighting a normal mob or a normal player, we'll apply a Major Fracture, we'll give off balance. But then the other problem is when you fight a boss, they forget that sometimes they have immunity. Like, we all make mistakes on things like that. But yeah, that's why I'm kind of questioning it. We probably should test it. Silver Boats. Decrease the duration of the snare from 4 seconds from 6 seconds. Matching everything else. Silver Leash. Fix an issue with its ability is not counted as Fighter Guild's ability for its Slayer passive. Alright, good to know. Synergic Order. Imbue weapons. Fix an issue where this ability is morphed were removing you from sneak while casting. Fix an issue where this ability is morphed were not playing their visual effects or audio if you were unarmed. Okay. Crushing Weapon, the morph. Fix an issue where you would heal you based on the damage done from light attack and not from the damage done from the crushing weapon itself. Okay. Mending Wounds. Weapon swapping with this ability bar will... Weapon swapping to an ability bar that did not have this ability or is more slotted will now toggle the ability off. Undaunted. Trapping Webs. Yes. Fixing an issue where the Black Widow spiders used for poison damage over time effect was being mitigated by spell resistance instead of their physical resistance. So hopefully Shadow Soak is going to give a bit more damage to it. Champion system, Atronach, Tactician. Fixed an issue where the passive was setting enemies off balance when you dodge their attack with dodge bonuses such as major or minor evasion instead of only from dodge roll. Yep. Lady, Unchained. Fixed an issue where the passive was not functionally when you use Break Free while transformed as a werewolf. Thanks, Spike. Major Fracture Morph or the off-balance worth with the other morph. It only targets successfully when feared. It's been tested on PTS already. Yeah, so it's yeah, so this werewolf one here, if it only does it to feared targets, I don't see that being a great improvement. I can understand why they would make that change though, because they want to make it so people that have CC immunity don't necessarily have to deal with it, because you know, you didn't do anything wrong, but then it affects other things where you're trying to get bosses debuffed and it doesn't affect. That's kind of a bad thing. Item sets. Alright, so this is some of the sets that have been changed based on feedback that people have given. So, Cyrodiil's Crest. This item has been redesigned. The old effect has been moved to Ward of Cyrodiil item sets. So, old has been weapon damage, health gain taken. When you take melee damage, you apply minor defile for 5 seconds, reducing healing received by 30%. It can only occur every 5 seconds here. The new one now is stamina recovery, max health. When successfully blocking, heal for 8,000 health. This can occur every 5 seconds. So yeah, this is for a permablock build here, it looks like. Don't know if it's going to be good or bad. We'll see. Defending Warrior. Fixing an issue with this item set could sometimes heal you based off the damage dealt from other abilities happening at the same time. Domas. Update the telegraph to visually display the enemy's players. Durok's Bane. Decrease the duration of minor defile for 4 seconds from 10 seconds. This one is not that bad of a debuff. I have to agree with this one here because I use Durok's Bane as well, and its basic major defile is if you damage me, you get major defile. I do agree with getting rid of the 10 seconds here down to 4 seconds, so hopefully somebody realizes, oh, I'm going to use jabs on you over and over again and be an idiot. You're going to get major defile and it's not going to heal you as much, and then guess what? Your vampire build to just take health from me is now just healing, is just hurting you overall. So hopefully folks will now stop being idiots and stop attacking somebody with Durok's Bane on, heal themselves, and then re-engage in the fight, which is really what should happen. The 10-second wait, though, is probably killing a lot of people, though. Elfbane. Fixed an issue where the item set could not set was not increasing the duration of the damage over time with Grothdar set. Okay. Hagraven's Garden. Updated the telegraphs to visually displays enemy players. Alright. Hatchling Cell. Item set's redesign. Old. Physical resistance, spell resistance, healing taken. Gain damage heal for 5,000 damage. Not that much for 15 seconds. Every 15 seconds. Yeah, so now it's 2 physical resistance, spell resistance, health. Gain major damage shield of 20% of your max health for 15 seconds. Every 15 seconds. I'm kind of interested to see if I could use, what is it? That light armor set there in Jorvild's set there to increase us another few seconds here to see if we get the two to stack on top of each other. It probably wouldn't work, but it'd be interesting to have a 40% damage shield stacked on top of each other for a short time. 20% though is pretty significant on that, I think. So basically, if you're looking at like a if you wanted the previously like the previous 5K that you're getting, you'd have to have 10,000 life, I think. No, wait a minute. Let me think here. So if you're looking at like 50,000 life here, right? So let's say you're just doing like a major health build here. Times 0.2. You'd be looking at a 10K thing there. Now if you're at least 25K. I'm sorry, that's wrong. 25K times at 2.2. There you have your 5K. But most people will probably running like a 40K. So you're getting about an 8K damage shield from that now. So that's definitely an improvement for folks that are running high health builds. Hi to Morhas. Fixed an issue where the damage from the set could critically strike. Okay, good to know. Jarvild's guidance. Fixed an issue as item set was not increasing the minor expedition buff gained from hasty prayer. So yeah, Jarvild's guidance right there. Light of Cyrodiil. 5-piece bonus has gained an additional effect. So previously it was just when you cast an ability, you reduce your damage by 15%. Now it reduces your damage by 50%. When you're interrupted, your next magic ability will cost no magicka. So this is actually pretty good, especially if you decide how to do this. So let's say you're doing a what do you call it? Radiant Destruction, which just got buffed actually. So you're doing Radiant Destruction, you get bashed out of it, and you get some debuffs on you. You can now actually cast Purge without any cost whatsoever, which is actually kind of awesome. I don't know if it's going to be viable enough for people to use, but it's definitely an improvement, I think. Robes of the Hist. Alter to the 5-piece bonus for this set. So, reduce the damage from disabling effects by 20%. You are now affected by disabling effects. You can heal for 2,000 health every 1 second. Now, it's while you're affected by disabling effect, immobilization, or a snare, you heal 2,500 health every 1 second. So this one I think is actually going to be a little bit more powerful than folks anticipate, because I can't, like, even with the snare reduction, I don't know a time that I'm not in PvP and I'm under the effect of a snare or a root or something else like that. Like, yeah, this one here with disabling effects, basically you're CC'd on the ground. It's terrible because you can't move at all. You can't do anything at all. You have to break free to get out of it. This now means that, yeah, you have a 20% snare, but you're also healing yourself up every 1 second with this health. It effectively gives you... It effectively is giving you, like... How much of a health recovery is that? That's got to be at least like 25, like, because health recovery ticks every 2 seconds there, and it's, I'll say 1 health recovery equals 10, so this is like giving you 500 health recovery just for being snared. I think that's going to be a dark horse that people aren't watching for whatever reason, but we'll see. Slowed Semblance. Remove the first damage tick, first damage over time tick. Damage for the overtime has been now, the damage over time effect has now been, I will get this right at one point or another. The damage over time effect is now begins dealing damage 1 second after it's applied. Decrease the total amount of damage by 50% due to removing the tick. Fix the issue with the damage over time from the set was removing invisibility. And fixed an issue where the damage over time could proc itself. Okay, so I think this is a good change to Slowed Semblance. It definitely fixes some issues there. It reduces the damage a little bit here. This issue down here was an issue, but it had to be fixed. Like, a proc set shouldn't A set procking itself shouldn't happen at all. That was just somebody's mistake there. And removing the ability to remove people from invisibility, I can kind of understand that. I honestly though think that if somebody's going to go into invisibility, they should get rid of their procs or any type of dots they have on top of them. But given the fact that they don't have any way to purge other than the PvP ability, I'm okay with that. Swamp Raider set. I'm happy about this one here too. Swamp Raider set. Redesign the 5-piece bonus set from this item. When you do damage to the magical ability, your poison and disease damage gain an additional 4,500 weapon damage for 10 seconds. Now it's, guess what? It adds 400 weapon damage to your poison and disease abilities. Why did it take this long to get that right? I've said this for a while now. There's no reason that you'd ever want to use Swamp Raider. If you're using a magic ability, there's no magic ability that gives disease or poison proc. So you're putting something in your rotation just to proc it off, which may be Flames of Oblivion or something else like that, but still, it's not that much damage comparatively. This should have been changed a while ago. I'm surprised it took this long, but hey, they got it done. Tremor Scale. Decrease the duration of the snare from 3 seconds from 4 seconds. Tremor Scale, Tremor Scale has been like the whipping boy since its inception. Like it had way too long of a snare and way too much damage, and ever since there, it's just been slowly getting chopped back more and more and being more and more irrelevant. Word of Cyrodiil. Redesign this item set. So now the old set was stamina recovery, mounted speed, max health, and increase the amount of damage you block by 8%. Now it's weapon damage, stamina recovery, and while you deal melee damage, you apply melee major defile for 4 seconds, reducing the healing taken and received by health recovery by 30%. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. Yep. So now that they replaced one, they took it out of the heavy armor set and now added it into the medium armor set. I don't think that's bad. I think that's appropriate. We'll see how this works out though. Finally, item sets. Infused. Fix an issue where the cooldown and the reduction of the both weapon enchantments if you were dual wielding. Okay. Apologize while I look something up here real quick. I'd also like to note something here that was not changed. And it's something major to me that I noticed as soon as it's not there. We changed all these things that give major defile, right? They skip Witchman's Hands. Did I miss Witchman's Hands? Ah, thank you. Witchman. Fixed an issue where resources restored in this item sets were not working the ultimate ability, which you cast them. Okay. Zane. Decreases the range from this Feather Tailor from 8 meters to 10 meters. So hopefully people can get free Mao. Alright, so sorry about that. I was looking up something new here, or something up on the other end here that's kind of missing here. So they made all these changes into the item sets here. And the thing I see missing still missing on this, because they took away from Major Defile. And part of the reason for Major Defile, and reason that you use it, is to deal with sets such as Troll King. If you don't know what Troll King is, it's basically 2% healing done, and then on the 2 proc, when you're below 50% health, increase your health recovery by 1548 for 10 seconds. Previously, okay, these abilities, these sets would last about 10 seconds. Now, Troll King is still 10 seconds, but now you're going to have to apply at least 2 procs or have an item set on there to counteract it. Just saying, like, you're reducing the time frame here, but then you have another proc set that just automatically heals people without any thought or any skill to it. Still 10 seconds. They cast one heal on themselves. It procs. They immediately had that health recovery in there. If they're using one of these item sets in here that reduces health recovery and all that stuff, they stop attacking. You're going to have to make sure that you put on these abilities. I'm just saying, this is just... It's missing the other shoe. Hopefully it's going to be updated in the next patch, but we'll see. Item traits. Infused weapons. It fixed an issue with the cooldown reduction and applied to both weapon enchantments if you're using dual wielding. Okay. Alright. Now, Alliance War and PvP. General. Players who queue for Cyrodiil while group will now independently enter Cyrodiil of their own individual queue timers. This means groups that queues for Cyrodiil have members in Cyrodiil in other zones as a group transitions into the campaign. Delve bosses in Cyrodiil now spawn like other delves in Tamriel. Happy hunting. Updated for alchemy satchels required for conquest boards or from Imperial City Telvar purchases. Now include new alchemy materials introduced in Somerset. Good to hear. Battlegrounds. Healing medals for team death matches now contribute to the score value towards the endgame scoreboard as well as weekly leaderboards. You can no longer cast undo to get into starter locations. Okay, makes sense. Itemization. Fixed an issue where a few items in Cyrodiil were considered stolen when picked up. In the lawless land of Cyrodiil, it's preposterous, and thus, these items are no longer considered to be stolen. Makes sense. Keeps. Keeps now have 2 levels of resource materials instead of 5. Resource level 1 defensive upgrades and level 1 production upgrades. Resources now go from 0 to 1 in about 10 minutes. A keep will now gain level slower from 0 resource, but much faster from level 1 resource. Prior upgrades will spread out across 5 levels to be compressed in 2 levels of keeps in level 1 for resources, but overall strength of each upgrade level will remain the same. Keeps once have a degrade turn back on. However, the degrade rate is much faster. A keep can lose a resource level in about 5 minutes instead of an hour. Okay, so what we're talking about here. Resources and keeps now intended to be symbiotic nature. So an enemy goes in and captures Reflect, affected the keep in a meaningful way. So the resource is now meant to be a primary target for smaller groups and solo players that want to alter the course of the war. The speed of the keep will now topple faster, resulting in the key resources not living up to their desired design purposes and simply serving as a beachhead does not affect the keep and the tied to. By introducing degradation and condensing the levels of the keep and resources, Cyrodiil will be offering a much more options for small groups and solo players to contribute in meaningful ways. This returns keeps and resources in their intended interplay as an entity instead of a full disparate beachheads surrounding the keeps. If you want to cripple the guards of the keep, take the farm. If you want to make the walls weaker, take the mine. If you want to take the door to drop faster, take the lumber mill. Okay, so again, take resources, get the keeps down faster. Now has purpose. No longer have to wait around for an hour to get something reduced. Now it takes just 5 minutes, which, you know, you're fighting a siege battle for a long time. That can be a turning point right there. Dracula, Dragonclaw, and Brindle now offer 8% AP bonus per keep held. This bonus is noted in the keep tooltip and when you hover over it. Keep bonus now increases the AP, XP, gold, spell crit, spell weapon crit for every level of ownership instead of every other bonus. Siege. Siege masters of Vivek and Shore have learned the counterparts of Siltha Sil, and all siege weapons will be more effective against players in champion enabled campaigns. So siege damage over years has tailed off in terms of raw output compared to CP and non-CP campaigns. Siege and non-CP campaigns deal damage more closely resembling the original design intent for siege weaponry. These changes were the changes we're doing for siege damage and champion-enabled campaigns result in closer parity between CP and non-CP siege damage. So basically, more siege damage in champion-level campaigns. I'd like to see that. Our animation, player transformation, animate properly when the interactive objectives and battlegrounds. Visual effect, Panera's ferocity no longer displays effects when you change zones. Combat and play, justice system. Many players who previously unsuspecting these intentions will now respond to suspicion when you approach. Mementos. Many mementos that prevented you from moving now prevent you from also mounting when using them. Many mementos are causing your players to unique animation to spawn unique effects that don't look very good or stop working entirely when you mount and use them. Since these mementos also stop you from moving entirely when they're active, we decided to keep you from mounting up instead of allowing you to mount off and ride off. Yep. Monster abilities, Nereids, Wisps. I gotta skip some of that. Crafting and general economy. Dawn prisons now have available from battleground supply merchants. Update the base rank icons for your crafting. Fix issue with French translations. Outfit system. Fix issue where poison visual effects would not display the weapons. Yeah, an outfit style applied. Now when you're working with the outfit and outfit stations, other players will be sure to see you facing the outfit station rather than staring off into space in the opposite direction. Seeking inspiration for your next catwalk ready design. Correcting issue with preventing Permelodon and Sapriarch outfit styles from preview and outfit stations. Fix an issue where the preview mode of the outfit station, your headpiece would disappear if you use a paint bucket tool on the head style. Okay. Writs. Lower tiers of blacksmithing woodworking now require fewer raw materials to satisfy, bring it in line with top tier stuff. Update the equipment writ board for post certification. Text to mention that they need that it does indeed improve jewelry crafting writs. Max rank crafting writs no longer display superfluous inspiration rewards. Fix an issue of provisioning writs are sometimes unpredictable on what they would be required during the week. Crown store and crown crates. Fixing issue could cause busts in the crown store. Preview, yada yada yada. Not too interested in most of this. There is new crown store stuff here we'll take a look at as well. Assistants now remain stationary when interacting and prevent close interaction. That's kind of nice because assistants were moving all over the goddamn place. Assistants will close activities and catch up with the owner if the owner moves 40 yards away from it. Yep, good to see. You can now only select one role in Activity Finder, and it will display it next to the party frames. So the reason they're doing this is because if you're going to choose a tank, be geared for a tank. If you're going to choose a DPS, be geared as a DPS. I don't necessarily mind this. Typically, I would queue up either as a tank or a DPS. I almost always got tank because that's always what was available. Everyone was always queuing up for DPS, whatever reason. I don't know if this is good or a bad change because honestly, what DPS people are going to do now is they're going to queue up for a tank. And they're going to be like, okay, guys, we can 3-man DPS this. We don't need to actually have a tank here, right? They're still going to do that. The people that were dual rolling as a tank and DPS are still going to roll as a DPS. They're still going to roll as a tank in this case because I can't find a group at DPS levels. So I don't know if they're going to be fixing anything. Maybe it's going to tell you to kick a guy out when he's like in full medium armor using dual wield and has only about 1500 or 15k health, but that's me. Bunch of changes to dungeons here. Not a whole lot that I saw here when I was looking through it. Just a couple more things here noted as well. Better tells and all this other stuff, and now continuing fixing some of the synergy issues. Exploration of itemizations. Mud balls can only be thrown at players who perform interactions. Fixing the issue with jewelry crafting written delivery boxes being open, visually opening blacksmithing writ boxes and vice versa. Fixing the issue with researchable items. Fixing the issue with lane is 1. Defining only worked on chickens. Fishing issue with you'd occasionally get a non-Clockwork City furnishing plan from obtained from Clockwork Furnishing Plans, which should be good for folks that are trying to do that. Fixing issue with Mola Grunda. Quest boss for Coal Harbor. Could drop incorrectly leveled equipment for the defeat. Achievements. Aldemary Master Explorer achievement. Now uses the correct name of Canal 3's Roots Pathfinder. Fixing issue of minor text errors and fishing related achievements. Fishing. Rare fishing achievements can now be indicating what type of water they're found in, which I think is a really good change. If you're wondering where to get some of those fishing achievements, now they're giving you a bit more help on it. Bait tooltips now indicate what water type they best work in, which is good because I can never remember that sometimes. Fishing nodes now display what type of water they are in. So these are improvements to fishing, which I'm kind of happy for. Still, fishing is a bit of a grind, but hey. Housing general, they've added 2 new housing here, which we'll take a look at here in a little bit. Added in a new housing permission called limited visitor. Limited visitors cannot adjust your lights or adjust your furnishings. Fixed an issue where decorator moved to assistant in the home. After play moved that to assistant, the assistant could then refuse to interact with anyone. They are now sworn to carry the burdens of even the most indecisive decorators. Employers of Tithias, Nazumi, and Ployers. And Pira, rejoice. Thanks to the recent updates to labor laws, any assistants placed in homes will now turn to face you when you speak to them. Some pews in the outdoor crest house were rotated incorrectly in the default template. Then now be properly rotated in the newly purchased home. But existing homes placement will not be touched. Fixing issue where the closing doors in Princely Dawn Estate will be blocked by a camera in third-person mode. Furnishings count toward the special achievement. Such for tags, yada yada yada. UI, add a mount preview and stable master. Fix issues where your bonding meter will appear briefly in your UI window. Consumables now properly display the effects in the achievement windows. Fix an issue where books are not displaying some resolutions. Fix an issue where the attempted to interact with an object or processing being destroyed will disappear. Additional items can be sold to vendors now on top of the sell tab of the vendor. Alliance War menu will no longer display to characters below level 10. Makes sense. Chat. When whispering a character name, press enter after the name. It will now enter the whisper channel of that character, similar to using zone and pressing enter will put you in the zone channel. Oh. Crown store and crown crates, yada yada yada. Proper positions, gamepad mode. They changed a few things here to make it a little bit easier to read the chats. Gameplay, attend to the mount combat. Yep. Werewolf, yada yada yada. Fixing guild members. Help tooltips. A couple tooltips changes. Housing. Fixtures housing would receive and down permissions. Change those rights. Yada yada yada. Quests after completing a quest tracker will now track any quests in the same journal category as the previous quest. So if you're in Deshaun, it'll stay in the Deshaun's quest. If you're in crafting, it'll stay in crafting quests. Fixing issue quest rewards and launched quantities with accurate resolutions. Should the quest pins now properly appear properly on the exit of Desert's Realm. Hostile search merchant chests, yada yada yada, and a few more other quest changes here. And that's pretty much it. So that is the patch notes, guys. If you want to go ahead and take a look at these for yourself, go to the PTS forums here on the Elder Scrolls Online forums.elderscrollsonline.com. Go to the PTS patch notes. Look for the 4.1.0 patch so you can look at these all on your own, and you don't have to listen to me read it next time. I know, it's been fun, guys, but you guys can read this on your own, really. You don't need me narrating this. I just put you to sleep, didn't I? No. Anyways, that's the patch notes, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Hope you got some information out of it and got some good commentary out of it, too. We'll have more stuff on PTS here in just a moment. And highlight done. Yes, thank you for